I totally forgot the countdown. Yes. It's been a while. But welcome back. Run it again. Well, folks, welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, episode number 267? 47?
37?
What is it?
37?
This is what happens when I don't have things prepared here. 237.
Incredible.
Look at that. We're way ahead of each other.
Funny little side note here. Last week I had to circle back like 8 times. I'm like, is it 235? Is it 245? I'm like, gosh.
See, this is what happens when you have a host like myself with ADHD that bounces all over the place. I'm like a dog with squirrels. So that I sometimes I'll mess up like one letter or one number, and then I just bounce all over the place. We've totally screwed up the numbers like 3 or 4 times over like the past 100 episodes. So yeah, my apologies on there. But welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Monday Night Live. Obviously, Adam and I were absent last week. We were up in the St. Lawrence River. But as always, folks, I am your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined with me are my co-hosts, Andrew Full and Adam Deacon. Boys, it's good to be back on here. It seems like we're like on and off, but like after this week, it's pretty much full steam ahead for all of us. We don't really have anything going on. Right? I mean, Deacon, you probably have some tournaments coming up, right? You have a team championship to try to qualify for.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that deal, and we got a couple more kind of in our fall swing of things, but nothing on the books super close. That's going to be a long like whole week off. But yeah, this weekend headed to Lake McConaughey, Nebraska, which is a pretty cool fishery. It's really low right now, but we're leading the team points by 4 points right now as far as qualifying for qualifying for the Bassmaster Team Championships on Eufaula in Alabama in December. So we will see if we can get that wrapped up. It's a Saturday, Sunday tournament, so I'll leave and get a little practice in and then fish the tournament.
Heck yeah. I think before we carry on really fast, Adam and Andrew said it was good, but for the folks listening and tuning in right now, let me know how my audio is. I'm trying the new little Beats deal that Deacon hooked me up with. And so far, so good on my end. It's way easier because my laptop audio was like, I would have to like really focus to try to make sure I was hearing everything. So if you guys can hear me okay, throw it down in the comments. But I know, Andy, you got a big weekend coming up because you're defending your little deal on Lake Erie.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. So we have the Douglas Derby. Hoping they get 50 boats so we can win 10 grand for first place. That'd be pretty sweet. Guide trip today on Erie. It's looking good. Fish are where they're supposed to be. Found a couple other things where I'm like, this could play. So me and Destin will probably have a shot. It's just going to be capitalizing and putting our big bites in the boat, which is always hard with smallmouth. But yeah, really looking forward to that. So I haven't even registered yet. Yeah, no net, bear paws. So I think these local team derbies should put a no net rule in because it'd be an advantage to me because I do it all the time. So it's fun watching other people try to grab fish that don't do it because they're like,
This guy, dude, this week.
Yeah, if you don't do it, it's tough. It's all about timing, and every smallmouth is different. Did your brother qualify for world team, Deacon?
Yeah, dude. Thanks for following along with that. He probably saw that. I'm not sure if on my Instagram or if he's a wrestler or what, but my younger brother did not. I don't know if he would be kind of considered the backup on the world team, which I believe he's been before. He had in the finals with, let's see, who was it? It wasn't. It was James Green. Okay, who he's wrestled a couple of times. James Green. I don't know. I think is in his 30s. He's been on the world team multiple times. My brother is wrestling for Northwestern again next year, but does a lot of freestyle and that kind of a thing. And he had 2 really close matches with him. It's best 2 out of 3. He had him actually. He had both matches. He was up winning with the last 30 seconds to go. Yeah. And James Green won on criteria in one of them, which is a really confusing thing in wrestling. So that sucked. It was a tie, but James Green won on criteria. And then on the other thing, on the other match, he got a takedown in the last like 22 seconds or something. So it sucked. It was really close. I was really proud of my brother. He had a really, really good tournament. He's getting so much better. I don't know, just watching him wrestle freestyle at that top level. But it was cool. Thanks for noticing that, Kyle.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, dude. So Deacon stayed at my place last week. He flew into Buffalo, which is nice. It's like 10 minutes from my house. And I got to
Yeah,
watch
they
a
missed
little
you
of his
there.
brother wrestle live. I mean, Andrew, that's kind of you. I mean, you wrestled for a long time in high school, didn't you?
Yeah, 4 years. In between JV and varsity, I won over 100 matches. I wasn't a world wrestling like amazing superstar, but I
Neither was
wrestled.
I.
So Deacon, you'll appreciate this. I wrestled 27 pounds above my weight.
Oh man,
I wrestled 215, weighing a sweaty 175.
oh man.
Believe it or not,
Dang,
folks,
dude.
Andy used to be a beast. He did not look like Zach Galifianakis. He was a beast back in the day.
Yeah,
You're still a beast, Andy. Don't let.
Yeah. You're bear paws now. You're bear paws now.
Bear paws,
You've transformed.
yeah, so I guess you could still call me a beast, right? No, I mean I've been losing weight and
Humble brag.
I was like 60 pounds less, so I could definitely slim off some lbs here. But she's
Dude, you're looking lean.
Yeah, we're getting there. I haven't
seeing some
eaten
pics.
all day, so like I'm starving.
Andy, it's just it's strategic weight because you're an Erie guy, so it keeps you warm in the fall.
Oh yeah, that's true. No, I'm finding it's actually better to be skinny and nimble on Erie because the wind just shifts out of nowhere. So like, quick story. Last night there was a really bad thunderstorm that came through, right? I don't know if you heard it, but it was at like 12:30 in the morning. We had 70, 80 mile an hour winds. And I get out on the lake and there's no wind. I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be glass calm. I haven't been out here in like 2 weeks. I come around the wall and I'm like, oh, there's a 4-foot roller. Like, great. Like, my sea legs are not ready for this. And I think we all stood up, including my clients, and we all like almost fell in because we're like, whoa. Like, you need a good center of balance, as you guys learned up at the St. Lawrence on that first day.
Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna dive into a bunch of that tonight. But a really funny story to go off of that. So for those who don't know, and what was really cool, so it really paid for the price of the admission in itself, like whether I caught a fish or not. And really cool deal, really fortunate for that day. But like I drew Chris Johnston on the St. Lawrence, and obviously fished on Ontario, and learned an unbelievable amount of info that we will not get into onto tonight's show. But what was really cool,
break everyone's hearts.
Yeah. The amount of waypoint requests I got after that and told them to just block my number. No, I'm just kidding. But no, so you do your whole co-angler pro like conversation the night before you go out and fish, and basically it was, oh yeah, it's probably gonna be a little bumpy because I don't know if you've you're used to big water or not. I'm like, I live in Buffalo now, and he goes, oh okay, you know. Yeah, that was a really stupid story for that.
Now you won't tell
now
secrets.
You won't tell secrets.
Get him, TJ.
I will tell secrets. I will tell secrets if they're mine. I don't tell secrets that people give me. Hopefully, people can respect that.
Yeah, I'm all about sharing. Sharing is caring. So, TJ was actually texting me earlier, saying he was getting mad and turning our show off and listening to disco music because we were saying too much. So it was kind of funny.
We were saying too much. Oh, God.
Which I thought was funny.
TJ, for those who don't know, is a stick around here. TJ does pretty well. It's gonna be dangerous when TJ gets back in a boat.
Yeah.
His own boat, yeah. But cool to see you joining us here tonight, TJ. But yeah, I mean, we might as well just get into it, right? I mean, we've Andy, you had some guide trips this past weekend. You just got back from North Carolina. You ran the show for us last week. So huge thank you to you for holding down the fort.
With the lack of vocal cords, like if you listen, I'm like all raspy and I'm like, thought I was dying. But anytime, guys.
The Rona Andy was actually, I'm just hungover from a week of wedding drinking Andy.
Cheers.
Andy's back at it.
Oh yeah. Back at it. Cheers.
Liver's
He's back. But yeah, no, so Deacon and I went up and fished as co-anglers on the St. Lawrence River for the Bassmaster Open, the last Northern Open. And we both saw some pretty wicked stuff. Deacon broke his PB like 7 times, so that was pretty sweet. Deacon, you practice with your buddy Hugh, and I apologize to Hugh because you always say his last name, and I still can't pronounce it. So if you could
I
go
always mess it up. It's Colasuelo. Now you're making me mess it up.
Yeah, now we can.
Colasuelo. It's so easy. It's so hard to me. Like it. Anyways, yes, I did, and I learned so much, man. He's an incredible fisherman, and learned a ton on just how dialed in he is with his electronics. Really, really good with his electronics, and those northern guys. He spends a lot of time fishing St. Clair, and it was cool to see kind of his thought process on breaking down the St. Lawrence River as well as Lake Ontario.
Yeah, that is a place you definitely want to be dialed in on your electronics, unless you're John Cox and you can just pitch around a wacky rig anywhere and catch them. That's great.
It's crazy.
So
speaking of wacky rigs, wait, we won't go there.
We'll bring Brock on the show and let him talk about that. A story for another day, folks. But like if you're dialed in on your electronics, I mean, you're going to vibe well with Lake Ontario, especially if you know current and you're dialed in on your electronics. The St. Lawrence River will just vibe well with how you fish. If you understand how it works, how that current flows, and how it'll make the fish set up, I mean, it'll just click. And that's what happened for a lot of guys. I mean, I think it was 24 pounds on day one got you into the top 10, which is pretty wicked weights. There was two 27. No, three? The 2 or 3 27-pound bags. I think it was 2 on day 1, 3 on day 3. 5. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then it was like 20 pounds all the way down to like 80th place. So it's
insane.
It speaks for the fishery. I mean, it's unreal. I know. So I practiced with our buddy Destin Marion out there, and he was there for a week and a half, and I know there's days where he had 27 to 28 pounds, barely even fishing some of his stuff. And I was on the boat with him when he caught some 5.5, almost 6 pounders in the river. But for a lot of people, day one, it was just kind of like things. I mean, we had this tournament, and Deacon, feel free to chime in here, is like we literally hit that place like in its transition, where if you could find more areas that were more stable than the others, those were the winning pattern. Where like the guys, if you noticed it, there was a concentration on day 3 when they went live and like showed where guys were. They were at the mouth at Cape Vincent, which is where all those fish, like we touched upon it when we were talking about fall fishing, right, with Ben Nowak. All those fish like to get in current when it's turning into the fall, the temperatures are dropping, moving water. They were funneling into the river, which is why those were the most productive areas day after day. And I think the guys in the top 3 that had 27-pound bags had bigger bags each day because more fish were going through there. Whereas some guys out in the lake had fish leave them. It was kind of an interesting trend to see with some guys, like who had fish leave them when they were on them in practice, whether it was the lake. And there's some guys in the river who had fish come right to them. Our buddy Dean Meckes had 26.5 pounds in the river, which is a place that right now isn't known to have 26.5 pounds. I mean, obviously it's possible and not like uncommon, but like everyone's like, oh, he must have went to the lake. No, he stayed in the river. It was just cool trend.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. I mean, to me, like you had to be the guys in the top 10 obviously had fish, like you said, coming to them. It's like the age-old thing. Like even if it were during the spawn, you want fish coming to you rather than having to go re-find them or anything like that. Anytime you're playing catch-up, it seems like you're in a losing battle. And it was not uncommon in practice. I mean, Hugh and I, every day of practice, we were catching between 22 and 26.5, 27 pounds. I mean, it's just giant stringers of fish. And he didn't have that either of the days during the Derby. And it was frustrating, and I think that a lot of guys in practice were catching really big bags and not leaning on them. I mean, one fish here, one fish there, one fish, and it just it didn't exactly pan out that way during the Derby. Like you said, it's the transition time.
Yeah. And here's something that was kind of interesting that I learned from this week with Destin was, a lot of guys were running and gunning. And with so many guys getting so good at their electronics now, there's not going to be a lot of secrets, especially on a place when you get, there's 189 boats, I think there were for the tournament. And, when you get say 70% of them that are staying in the river, there's not a lot of ground that you're going to have to yourself at all. And something that we kind of learned, which was actually really interesting, I don't know if the fish are doing this because of the boating pressure, but it was really interesting how a lot of guys were moving around, running and gunning, and Destin was running different stuff, and we just weren't seeing anything on the graph. But then he just got to an area where he's just like, well, Destin knows he vibes well with the river. He's good with electronics. He's just like, all right, let's just fish it. Let's just try it. We're not seeing anything. We might as well just try something different. It's literally, first drop, he catches a 5.5. And he goes, dude, I didn't see that fish on live scope. I didn't see it on 2D. I didn't see it on down imaging. They were sucked to the bottom, or they were hiding behind boulders where you couldn't see them on your electronics. So like, he just kind of got in this pattern where it's like, I'm just going to start running stuff that looks good. And then it just clicked. It was kind of cool where it's like, and that's one thing I really took away from the week too, was like, just because you don't always see fish on your electronics doesn't mean that they're not there. If there's structure where they can hide, I keep saying structure. It keeps reminding myself, because I have people yell at me for structure and cover. If there's cover there for them to hide in, they're not going to show up electronics all the time. So you might as well give it a shot if you have the time.
Here's my little segue into the structure conversation or cover conversation. So when you get a boulder and let's say there's gravel or sand around it, when that water flows around that boulder a certain way, it's actually going to cut it out behind it. It'll be really hard to even see it on structure scan or side scan, but the water will actually, if there's like a soft bottom around it, it'll cut it out and those fish will lay down in that belly. So as you scan over top of them, you'll never see them because they'll be hiding in the shadow, depending on the way the sun's hitting it, the way your boat angle is, or even on 2D, they're laying down in that to where the 2D can't pick it up. And down imaging isn't going to pick them up either. So I see that a lot on the Niagara.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think
that's sneaky, dude. I didn't realize. I mean, it makes sense though.
Trout fishing,
that soft stuff. There you go.
So like,
that's a really good point.
So current creates concussion, and if you watch like scuba diving videos of guys that dive into streams and stuff, you can see boulders, and you'll see just little tiny concussion cutouts behind the boulders. So they'll lay in there. So hopefully a lot of people don't hear this and realize what's happening. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was the idea here, Andrew.
Yeah. But no, but yeah. So like that's one little thing that I have found is, especially in current fisheries, a lot of times you don't see the fish. A lot of times. And those are your biggest bites because they're smart.
That's super interesting. Well, that would probably explain full well why we weren't seeing anything on electronics. But it's that little small things like that. Like, if Destin didn't decide to make that switch, he could have just been running stuff all day and been completely spinning out.
Yep.
Where he's like, okay, my areas are probably still good. He goes, yeah, I didn't fish some of his high percentage stuff. They're probably I just can't see them. They're probably just holding super tight to cover.
Was it cloudy or sunny when they disappeared?
It was raining.
That makes sense. Because when it's, I think smallies do that a lot when it gets cloudy because they're such a visual feeder. They want to be somewhere that it's going to come right to them. Everyone talks about how they get out and roam when it's cloudy and they'll get up high. I actually think they get down so much tighter to the bottom and they actually become lazier because they wait for the bait to come to them. Because they're like, I'm going to eat anyways. With the current, it's going to flush bait through there and it's an easy snack and they can go right back down and hide.
TJ's punching the air right now.
Yeah.
He's probably listening to Disco because he's too mad about it. Yeah.
Or no, wait, it's this, right?
There you go.
And I think another big takeaway, and Adam, I'm really curious on your takeaways from this past week as well, being that it was your first time up there, was that Chris Johnson's an absolute badass. So we get down our first spot. He doesn't even make a cast yet and realize his trolling motor foot pedal wasn't working right. So instead of wasting time trying to fix it, he just brought out his remote and he scoped fish with his remote all day long, which is like a huge pain in the ass. But the dude did it and still had a big bag.
Just imagine he was like panning it around. And he's got like trigger figure ready to go, right? And he sees them and he's like, lock, close, like. I can see it like pan. Okay, he's got it. Like,
Would
I
he
can
drop
see it
the
happening.
remote when he'd stick one, or what
No,
would
it's
he do?
probably around his neck.
No, it wasn't. There's a couple times I grabbed it so it wouldn't fly out of the boat when we went to run.
Like, oh, thanks, man.
Just throwing it everywhere.
Yeah, no. So it was really cool because our brains are kind of the same, and it's like I shouldn't say the same because he's on a whole nother level than I am, but like in terms of like always trying to be on the go, moving, like ADHD, brain all over the place, being forgetful about certain things, but at the same time, like he was just dialed and on everything. It was actually really cool to watch. And it was really cool, like being able to pick his brain. And he's a big hockey guy, hunting dude, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so we'll move on from that because Adam, I'm very curious in your takeaways this week in the St. Lawrence.
Yeah, man. First, just seeing everything was incredible to me. There is so much water in that river and on that lake. It is absolutely absurd to me. I mean, there is like, I was really thinking about it like, okay, if I were fishing a tournament here with my boat, I'd like to try and get away from the crowd. Like there's you could get away from the crowd in so many situations, but at the same time, it's you gotta be careful, obviously, on the lake to get back in time. It was just crazy to me. That the sheer vastness of the place and the amount of smallmouth in there was insane. I've never experienced anything like it.
It was pretty cool to kind of see like how certain people were kind of getting creative too to get those fish. Just like everyone's throwing a drop shot. People got really creative, so which was pretty cool. And we're saving that for a whole nother episode. We will dive into it, but on another episode because tonight's about tournament strategy. So obviously we want to talk about St. Lawrence a little bit, and I'm sure it's going to pop up throughout this episode just because it's so recent for us. But I guess kind of give a recap to let people know who don't follow our personal socials. I think Adam and I both walked away with a lot of lessons learned this past week as co-anglers. What not to do, what to do, and walked away with some beer money. Adam and I got to watch Adam, one of his buddies, qualified for the Elite Series. Got to see some crazy emotions. It was a really cool week. I think we took away a lot of it. Yeah, Adam, any shout outs that we want to give tonight?
Yeah, man. Alex Redwine, dude, just qualified for the Elite Series guys through the Northern Opens there. I was staying with him and Hugh, and they both were in contention. It was incredible. I think Hugh was sitting in third, and Alex was in fourth. And Hugh, unfortunately, didn't quite get it done. Still had a decent tournament, but just it's so competitive in the Opens right now. So you can't have below a top 30 really. It's absurd. And Alex is an incredible fisherman, super humble guy, and you guys should follow along with Alex's journey. I think he's going to do incredible in the Elite Series next year, and be ready to watch him, especially on those northern fisheries. And even Lake Oahe, I think it'll be cool for him. Just another smallmouth deal. He's really good with his crafts and really good at chasing smallmouth around and largemouth.
Is there a pro from Ohio in NLF or Bass right now?
Is it Bill Lowen?
Currently, yeah.
I think Bill Lowen's Indiana.
Yeah, you're right.
I put those two as the same place.
Is there one from Ohio? Oh, Stryax. Well, I guess they don't live there now, but they're from Ohio.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount. It's always surprising me.
So our buddy Dean Meckes, I stayed at his place last week, and I told Dean, this clicked with me in my head this morning when I was trying to go to the gym. I told him I left my sneakers at his house. Sorry, dude. But this is perfect because it allows us to shout out old Mr. Dean Meckes on a top 10 at the Bassmaster Open. Dean. Womping on him. I think he was one of the only guys using a bait caster out of the top 10 that were on live, cracking them in the head. So congrats again, Dean. If you folks are trying to get up to the St. Lawrence River for a guy trip, that is your dude right there.
That was awesome.
He'll get you on some bigs. Yeah, we were glued to the TV.
Green rod, setting the hook.
Dude, he slammed him, man.
That big one, I saw like the replay where he like grabbed it and like threw it in the boat. I was like, he man-beared that fish.
He bear pawed it.
No, that wasn't a bear paw. He man beared it. He like swiped
Man.
it through.
You literally.
Dean, I think the sneakers just give me an excuse to come back up there and fish this fall. I think that's what I have to do. Deacon, you'll have to fly over.
A nest right your way, right? Like
yeah.
It's like the girl leaving a necklace somewhere. Oh, I need to talk to you again. Bailey's just leaving his sneakers at Guide's house.
I need.
Hey, Dean, I'm here to pick this up. What are you doing tomorrow?
You want to go fishing?
Oh man.
Oh, that's good. All right, so let's dive into strategy here, because I think, and especially I want to dive into the whole, from an opens format, the whole boater co-angler, because I think there is 1000% a strategy that can go into it on both fronts. And it's a tough deal to talk about because it's two guys, I wouldn't say competing, but are trying to fish for the same fish. In most cases, the same fish. And they're not competing, but essentially they are, I guess basically they are competing for the same fish that the boater's putting them around, right? And it's not like the co's trying to get in the way. Some cases they're intentionally trying to get in the way. It's a fine line. It's an interesting argument. I know we've had co-angler shows in the past, Andrew, but I think this is a good thing to bring up again, because I think on the St. Lawrence River, there's an asterisk. Because I think on the St. Lawrence River, if you're drifting properly from like an efficiency standpoint, the co-angler has the advantage in terms of they're in the back of the boat. Whereas like maybe on Lake Ontario, if you're specifically target fishing, it could be completely different. It's still a great place on Lake Ontario Erie to be a co-angler because there's fish absolutely everywhere. But I think it's a great conversation to have, because like for a boater, and I got to go practice with Pangrak that Sunday before the tournament, and I told him, he's like, so, because we had that conversation, it was like co-anglers on the river, if you're drifting properly, have the advantage, and how to put that back in the boater's advantage to be the first one to the fish. It's like you could drift, boater first, turn the boat around, but it will be a little bit more difficult to keep your boat position, where you want it to be. But like that is the only way for you to have first grabs of the fish. So now you have to weigh it out. Do I want to be on the trolling motor a little bit more, focusing on that, or do you want to have a shot at your co-angler getting first grabs at the fish, where typically if you get any bait in front of these fish, in most cases they're going to eat it. So like just because your co-angler doesn't know his way around a rod and reel doesn't mean he won't catch one, if that makes any sense. So I kind of want to hear you guys' take on it, like, because I mean, me, obviously I don't own a boat. I'm the kayak and co-angler dude. I would like to, Deacon, you've done both, and Andy being the boater, and especially from the Great Lakes, I want to hear you guys' deal on, if you were attempting both sides of the spectrum on this deal, what would be your strategy?
Do you want to go first, Adam, or do you want me to go first?
Go first, man.
All right. So personally, I hate aimless drifting. So I am always going to, from a strategy of a tournament or fun fishing or whatever I'm doing, unless I'm guiding, obviously the people are paying to catch fish. So I'll set the boat up in an advantageous position for them. But if it's a tournament, I mean, it's no holds barred. I'm putting my nose right there. I'm running the trolling motor as much or as little as I have to, and I'm taking the first shot. I'll even set it up to a point where, I want to drift over this entire shoal, but I might pull up behind the shoal because the fish, the way the current's coming, I'm just going to nose right there and make a cast and drift off, pull back up, make a cast, drift off, just strategically pinpointing fish. And once I get mine, the co can catch him. That's fine. So once I get mine, then I'll start sharing. If it was an open situation. Yes, the co is paying money to be there, but I am also paying a lot more money to be there, and there's a lot more on the line. But there's also a point where if I'm not catching them, obviously I'm like, you know what? Go at it. Let's try to figure this out together. But if I'm on them, me first. I'm sorry. That's just me being me in that situation.
And really quick, I totally respect that standpoint because And for Co saying, well, I have money on the line too. Well, you don't have an Elite Series qualification on the line. Say, I mean, granted, obviously, there's not every guy on the Opens or at the Opens are trying to make the Elite Series. But if you got a guy who has his career dream on the line, and you're gonna like try to take fish from him, I mean, if personally, and this is my standpoint, if I was going out with a guy that is like today's gonna make or break, like him making his career dream, like what he's put all of his money, all of his time invested for, I probably wouldn't even bring a rod that day, dude. I might bring a rod, and then he gets what he wants. He knows he's got it, and then I might fish. But like, dude, I mean, at least for me, like, and I'm such an advocate for fishing the Opens from a co-angler if you're going to learn. If you're going there, I don't believe you to go there for money or try to win or anything like that, because it is such a crapshoot. And Deacon and I had this conversation multiple times. But I get that. I respect the hell out of that point, Andrew, because the boaters have way more invested. And that's one of the things I told Pangrak. I even had this conversation with Chris Johnson. It's like, dude, you get the right boater. I mean, I'd rather bring a notepad than a rod and reel, because you're going to have way more return on investment than trying to pluck fish behind a guy. I mean, dude, who am I to try to go pluck fish behind Chris Johnson? I mean, dude, he had 18 pounds before I even had a bite on the first day. It's like, I was like, I'm just too busy, like, just watching his every move to try to learn as much as I could.
Status. You're like, Chris Johnson.
Well, dude, we just pull up, and it's like, I was just like, he's already got a fish. Like, I haven't gotten up from my seat yet. Like, it was wild. I don't understand. And I guess maybe I don't have all the perceptions, or maybe I'm not putting myself in a specific shoe, right, to look on the whole deal. But like, I don't understand co-anglers that try to take fish from their boats.
Yeah.
But basically, my long story short, Andrew, I completely agree with your standpoint. But Deacon, I'm very curious to hear your side.
Yeah. First of all, Kyle Pillars, dude, I did get the rods on the plane. Actually, I'm doing a video on how I've traveled to do that. So that will be, it may be out this week, but probably in the future. It'll be really, really cool, a breakdown on if you are going to go fish an event as a co-angler, how to do it the cheapest way, the safest way on your rods. It can actually be done. Well, that helps if you're local, but anyways.
This is with the asterisk that they don't lose your rods.
Yeah, that was a sly inconvenience. Yeah, that didn't happen. But we got them. Anyways, so
I just want to point out really fast. I'm sorry for interrupting you again, Deegan. TJ Dobbs, I put his comment up on here. He said a boater should come first, in my opinion, and that's coming from probably the best co-angler in the Northeast. So the dude wins just about every co-angler event that he fishes. So I just want to highlight that even some of the best realize that. So, sorry, just wanted to carry on.
Sure. Yeah, no, so you're good. So as far as co-angling goes to boating goes, I think I've got a really unique perspective on this, because I've spent the majority of my time in fishing as a boater, and on that side of things, I fished the Toyota Centrals this year on the boater side. Have had a lot of co-anglers in my boat, and over the last 2-ish years, I felt like at the Opens level and some of these higher level tournaments, I would like to fish as a co-angler to learn. And that was my sole goal. It was not to win money. It was not to, I mean, great. If I catch a check, fantastic. If I win the whole dang event, that's a sizable check in the co-angling thing. But to me, I'm there to learn. Like you guys are saying, that's my thought process on it. And I've been in the position on the boater side of being like, look, man, this is going to be a pretty tough day for my co-angler. Like, I realize what I'm doing. I'm going down a bluff wall cranking. I'm going to be parallel with the wall the entire day, but I've got a shot to make the next round in whatever tournament it may be. It was a, TBF semifinal or Bass Nation, whatever it's going to be. And I'm going to probably push that as hard as I can. And I'm going to say, look, man, it's going to be a tough day. I'm going to give you what I can. I'd probably throw a light Carolina rig behind the boat, but it's going to be a tough day. And that's just the way that I feel like it has to be approached. I ended up having a tough draw on the St. Lawrence. My guy was setting up in the river. We weren't doing any drifting. He was, I think, worried about people catching fish behind him. So he would sit behind a shoal and spot lock and make the same cast up to the shoal. So I'm in 60, 80 feet of water behind us, and I can't do anything. But I understood the situation. And I was doing what I could with that, right? And I ended up catching 3 small keepers that day. But, like, it was brutal, and I knew it was going to be. But I learned a lot from the guy, and that's just kind of how the cookie crumbled. So, yeah, I would say always boater is going to have that advantage. Something, though, to kind of contradict what you guys are saying, I'm confused on how guys get so good at co-angling that win consistently. That, to me, and I guess it's not contradicting, but more so, I don't know how guys figure that out, because in my only 2 years of co-angling experience, really, over the last 2 years, I've been a boater in most all other situations, still do a lot more of that. But, like, these guys that win consistently, I mean, there's a couple of them. I agree
it's
to an
draw
extent.
luck.
I agree to an extent, and maybe it's because they've fished enough to where they're having more chances, right, to have that good draw. But there are guys. I mean, you look at even Justin Lucas has won multiple times as a co-angler before hitting the boater side. Like, the guys that have figured out the co-angling thing, to me, are pretty incredible. But I agree that there's a big component of luck with that. Is if you can draw up to, and it doesn't have to be like a superstar boater. It could be a guy who maybe is just drifting, and he's drifting correctly and giving you a good shot at things, right? Like, so it's cool to me. But you learn a ton. The co-angling experience, I think, is a great thing for our sport, and it connects you with people. And I think there's a legitimate reason to be there.
So hear me out just real quick. Sorry, Bailey. As a co-angler, you could literally fish and win any event if you get the right bites, but you literally only need one rod, a drop shot, especially in a 3-fish format. You might not get a ton of bites doing it, but you're going to get 3 bites. And if you can catch a limit and one of the days have a good limit, you're going to have a much better chance at winning than the guy who takes 10 rods, 7 tackle boxes, a lunch cooler, and a lunch pail, and 3 sets of rain gear. So if you go more simple,
I needed that this last week.
Co-angler, you're gonna have better success. So before I transitioned in the captain world, guiding world, co-angling world, and boater world, I was a co-angler, and literally I would take like 4 or 5 rods, a backpack with like broken down flipping baits, drop shot baits, and if I went back and wrote down a journal, I would notice that all the money I won as a co-angler was literally drop shotting every tournament.
Yeah. Got to be doing something.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's on that subject. Like, I mean, St. Lawrence River is like straightforward. I know there's some wicked good co-anglers that get really creative. I mean, Sakai from Buffalo, who won with Chris Johnson, was leading day one. He's one that you can ring out there. That's a really good behind boaters. But, like, I mean, for me, dude, like, I can't bring that much gear from just, at least from the standpoint of, like, I feel guilty if I bring a lot of gear. Like, the only time I ever bring a lot of gear when I'm, like, a co-angler is, like, when I'm going to fish with Andrew, and he doesn't care if I bring 7 rods.
I'm like, bring 100. I'll use them too.
That's a team.
Yeah. Like, oh, that looks good.
But it's a good point, though, Andrew, is, like, in terms of being efficient, it's less distractions. It keeps things simple. But, talking about co-anglers that are always successful, and Deacon, you talked about, like, a boater that's generous enough to, like, do a proper drift and give the co-angler the first shot at the fish. That's how I actually met Dean Meckes, because we both did really well at a federation event up in the St. Lawrence River, which actually TJ Dobbs won that event, blew everyone out of the water. But I wonder almost if, and I'm sure this goes on, maybe I'm selfish in saying it, because I don't give boaters spots. Like, like if I go out with somebody on a body water that maybe I know, I might be selfish for it, and I'm fully willing to own that. But, like, I don't give out, like, hey, I have a spot here, let's go fish that or something like that. I'll offer suggestions, like, if we're in an area, like, maybe they're under here and we're not catching them or something like that. But, like, I wonder if some guys do a little bit of practice and then, like, take guys to certain areas that they know of, and then almost gives them an advantage because they already know what they're looking for, if that makes any sense.
For sure, dude. I mean, there's
anything wrong with that. I want to say there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. No. It's just if you're a better competitor or not. And it's me, I'm just not willing to give up stuff.
And I think there's a
College.
fine line with that. Like, I mean, I drew a guy this year on the Arkansas River in Dardanelle who was like a local and was suggesting all these places to me, but it messed me up because he started throughout the day just like, hey, we should go to this. We should go to this. I'm like, dude, I've been practicing all week. Like, I want to go run the stuff that I'd found. And I think there's a proper way to do it. But there's guys that do that. I mean, the guy I drew on the co-angling side at the St. Lawrence my second day, his co-angler had like 12 something pounds, and I did too behind the guy. But two of his fish, he caught a 4 and a 5 pounder on a spot that he recommended to his boater. They were coming back through on the river, and he was just like, hey man, I'm a local. I've been pre-fishing up here. I brought my boat. I just didn't want to jump into the open and pay the expense on the boater side. I found some fish right here. Do you mind if we stop on the way back? Like, it was kind of at the end of the day. I was just suggesting it. And he's like, yeah, sure, man, whatever. I'm not on them. Let's go figure it out. And he caught a 4 and a 5 pounder over there. So, that can happen. And that's cool in my eyes. And I don't think it's a problem. I think you just have to be careful on how you project that, because you don't want to mess up the boater's head, right? You don't want to get in his head and change how he was fishing and how he is as an angler. But I think it's reasonable to do it. And some guys ask. Some pros will, the first thing they'll do is be like, hey man, are you a local up here? I'm not really on anything. Honestly, I had a tough day yesterday. You got any suggestions? So I don't know.
It's interesting to go down the whole little rabbit hole. I guess I'm kind of curious your guys' take on this. You're a boater and you're spinning out. I mean, do you look to your co-angler and be like, hey, I think there's a difference between asking if they have any ideas or asking if they have any spots. I mean, what are your guys' opinions on that conversation?
Go ahead, Andy.
Because, like, for me, I could turn around and be like, hey, if we're not catching them, be like, hey, do you think we should be doing anything different? Like, I'm totally cool having that conversation. But, like, I feel on the flip side, I don't know if I could turn around and be like, hey, dude, you got any spots? I feel like that's two totally different conversations.
So both are good in a certain situation. So, I mean, I've had days where I'm like, oh, I can't catch them. What do you have? Like, let's go run something that you have confidence in. We're both at 0. Have anything we can check out and maybe get a bite or two. Sure. But normally I'm so headstrong. I'm like, I'm running my stuff. I don't want any questions. I don't want any answers. Just do what you're doing and let's go have some fun.
Sit there and shut up.
Because I'll run around, like, I'll burn a whole tank of gas just to figure it out. Because, I mean, our lakes are so small besides Erie, right? So we can literally run all over the place and do it. On a national standpoint, I think it would become different as to be like, if I got a local guy in my boat and be like, hey, have you ever fished here before? Then I'd be like, okay, but on bodies of water I'm familiar with, no, shut up. Like, let me do my thing. Like,
yeah,
get out of my ear. Right. You little bug. Shoot.
Dude, I'm the same way. Go ahead.
I was saying, I got to take a quick second to embarrass a new friend, a new buddy, Mr. Joe LaBarbera, who I brought up on the screen. I don't think I've ever seen anyone fall in the water before blast off. So I think we need to get Joe on the show here soon to talk about the he doesn't know.
Yes.
No. He's seriously dangled.
You were a serious dangler for that morning, buddy. I parked Chris Johnson's truck and I get out of it and I see Joe like come down the hill. It looks like he's like changing clothes. He's like, dude, you would not believe what I just did. I was like, what? Like, I didn't know what the heck you were talking about. He's like, because I fell in. I was like, what?
You should have said first day on your new boat. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh man, I can't tell you, when I first got my Triton, it almost happened to me a couple times. Like, you go step on the trolling motor and you're not used to like the nose of the boat, and you're just like, whoa. Like, it
wasn't even that. Dude, French Creek is a horrible launch.
Oh, it's terrible.
And so like the water level is low actually on the river. So like your boat's here, like your boat deck, and like the dock's way up here. You have to step up, like almost climb up. And it was dark. They don't have very good lighting around it. So I can see the way he explained it, and obviously we're gonna get him on the show here soon so he can kind of go through the whole story. But basically he was fooling around for it and misjudged and took a spill. And I really hope he was running GoPros because that would be amazing. Not that you'd see it, but at least hear.
So dark.
But Joe ended up having a really good event. I think he were in the 20s. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. But
congrats.
I think he had a really good tournament. But yeah, sorry, I had to go. I had to talk about that because it made my day from the start.
Many of you had like a situation like that where you just missed the landing and go in? Because I sure have once. So when I was like 14.
So far, so good.
I'm knocking on wood right now, dude.
Yeah.
So I haven't. I've come very close a couple of times, but I haven't.
So I'll tell my story here real fast. I was fishing with my uncle, and he had a little tin beater, and he's on a trolling motor, but we're trying to get out of the water because there's a really bad thunderstorm coming, and there was like a 3-foot lip of an aluminum like sidewall, and I had to grab and pull. Well, when I grabbed and pulled, my foot slipped on the aluminum on like some grass because the water was lower, and I went straight in over my head. Like,
oh no!
Yeah, because the boat like blew away as I was grabbing and trying to like reach out. 1 foot off, 1 foot in, boat moving, just right over my head. I was 14 or 15. It was hilarious. I remember laughing about driving all the way home wet. It happens to everybody at some point. So,
hey, it's better to happen in the summer than like on Erie, like December.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like you're laughing versus like you're going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little different in age.
It doesn't matter. 35, real age, 14 at heart.
Mm-hmm. So getting back to this whole strategy deal, here's an interesting take. I think a topic that we should go down, and I think it's one that I think really comes with time, and more experience in tournaments. And some guys, it might just click naturally, but I think multi-day events and preserving fish. I think that is a huge struggle for a decent amount of people that want to just maybe are your weekend anglers that only fish Saturday tournaments, stuff like that. I mean, when it comes to you guys and you approach multi-day tournaments, whether the bite's tough or whether the bite's a slugfest, I mean, how do you guys approach that? Do you kind of just take what you think might be good for the day and go to a plan B, C stuff, or are you just laying it all on the line? I guess Deacon, hit us off.
Yeah, man. I think it really depends on a couple of things. Number one, are you fishing an open with a 200 boat field? If you're fishing an open with a 200 boat field versus a 30 boat field in a, club tournament, that's a completely different thing because you don't have to burn them in a club tournament. But when you have a big field, you got to burn them because there'll be someone else that's on those same fish, or at a minimum, there's a chance that those fish could leave you. So to me, you gotta crack them. And the only time that I would say that it's fared me well to not burn them, and I'm someone who honestly struggles with inconsistency, and that is something that I have always kind of lacked in a multi-day tournament. Is I'll have 1 or 2 good days on a 3-day event, and one day I'll just drop the ball, man. And that is something that I have been really trying to work on. And the only thing that it affords you, if you're in a tougher tournament and you've got a primary area, but you also want to explore more, and really where you can kind of get bonus points, in my opinion, and bust your bag, is you can catch a limit in a primary area, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm feeling confident, maybe stick one more. I don't really know if anyone else has this found. I'm going to go run new stuff and try and get a big, right? And that is where you can kind of find another area or bonus and practice during the tournament. That's the only time where I felt it wasn't fully 100% to burn them. And I still hit them pretty hard, but I knew I got a good chance of, and it's worked out for me in the past, right? You go down a bank with a top water and you catch a 4-pounder, and it's like, oh, well, that helps my bag a lot. And maybe I can run some more of this tomorrow. So I think it is a lot of situational, and I think the number one factor is field size. You got to really look at your field size in your tournament.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It is knowing what you're up against, right? You mentioned like a club derby where there's a good shot that whatever you're on, somebody might not even be fishing, where you can be a little bit more conservative. Um, I think, and Joe LaBarbera makes a great point in the chats. Like, if you're in the Northeast, I think it's completely different conversation than, say, like when you're in the South, right? Or maybe even like on a ledge fishery. I don't know. I feel like those are completely different conversations and different answers. But I think what it really comes down to is getting a gauge on what you actually think is there, and especially now with technology, it's helping us. That forward-facing sonar is going to be huge in seeing what fish are still there. I mean, I remember
There's
when we
20 of
had
them
on.
there.
Yeah, I remember when we had John Sukup on. He goes, I found a mega school of bass. He goes, I panned around and I saw they were all the same size and they were all 2-pounders, and I left. Where most guys will keep catching them and be like, hey, maybe there's an 8-pounder or something in here. But with that sonar, he'd be like, well, there's no big one down there. He goes, I'm just going to leave. Which is a ballsy move because, like, we have that conversation, right, of, like, there's those big fish on the St. Lawrence you can't see because they're so tight to cover. You never know what could be doing the same thing. I think it's just, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's experience. Over time you kind of learn when, hey, I think I need to lay off these fish, right, or go run certain stuff. And maybe, it usually takes, 20 pounds a day for a one-day tournament to win there, and say you got 18 and a half, 19, maybe you go move after that. Maybe you'll try to pick off a big one, like you said, Deacon, on your BC spots, and then go and lay it out, like lay the hammer on them in a 2-day event on day 2.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. I think another thing that makes a big factor in that conversation is weather. If it's going to be horrible on a 2-day event, right, we'll use that for a general outline. On day 2, it's going to be absolutely nasty. Beat the living crap out of them on day 1, and then see what you can do day 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Andy, what do you think?
So I have a couple different strategies here. When it comes to smallmouth fishing, the way I practice is I look for big fish and I look for groups of good fish. Because if I'm on a group of good fish, that's where I'm starting, and I'm burning it to the ground day 1. And then I'm going to go try to find bigger ones and kind of practice for the next day. So like smallmouth fishery, if it's a multi-day event, I'm trying to get to that 20-pound mark day 1. Trying to, so I can survive. But if the weather comes in, I'm burning them to the ground. Like, absolutely, I'm running my big fish pattern. Going to go for 5 if the weather is going to be crappy day 2. But it's all situational. I think you can't go in with all cards on the table. I'm just burning them to the ground. You have to know and have a plan for day 2 and 3. You got to catch them first. So you have to be thinking in the future, but also what is going to be the most situational, what's the best situation for me on day 1 or day 2? Like, what's the weather day 3? If it's a 3-day event, if I make it to day 3. So, but first and foremost, you have to catch them day 1, but you have to know also when to lay off. So there's all kinds of different things. I'm a burn them to the ground type guy, especially with smallmouth, because I know they move so much and they're here today, gone tomorrow, but they're 100 yards away, and a lot of times we miss that. So I like to burn them as hard as I can and then just start searching.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's such an interesting conversation because, like, I think you see some guys struggle with it. You've seen some guys, like, even in the Elite Series, right, that lead so well for 3 days, and on that last day they lose it because they went through all their fish.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see on the flip side, there's guys that manage very well for 3 days, and then on day 4 catch 42 pounds. I mean, we watched it this past year, so I don't know. It's just an interesting conversation. I don't think there's any really right answer. I think there's a good kind of, rule of thumb, but I don't think there's like a right and wrong. Because, like, again, they're fish. They can miraculously show up, and your school of 2-pounders can turn into a school of 5-pounders.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And to me, one other thing, I think as a big overall perspective in tournament angling, I think that too many guys, especially at the kind of the club level, get stuck doing the same thing, right? The same spots on the same lake, blah, 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 the same strategy. I think if you're gonna get better as an angler, and your goal is to move up the ranks and fish the next level and the next level and the next level,
Gamble.
I think you need to be comfortable trying new things and gambling. Yeah. I mean, trying new strategies. Like, hey, look, I'm going to try burning them this tournament. I'm going to try not burning them and be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? In those situations and trying new things, because you're not going to figure out who you are as an angler. That's what's so cool about this sport and so unique is guys have specific things that they do and are known for. And overall, I think kind of bigger conversation with this is be willing to fail and try different strategies as an angler, because you kind of get your rhythm and what you really like to do and what you've had success with in tournaments.
Right. That's a good point. What do you guys think is like your biggest struggle when it comes to tournament fishing? Like, what do you think? What is a hurdle that you still to this day either bugs you or something that you just kind of can't? Take finding fish aside, right? What's honing in on decision making? What is a hurdle that you guys have?
Trusting my gut, zigging instead of zagging. I always find myself going left when my gut is telling me to go right. And like I've caught them over here in the past, but my gut's like, go run new water and try something that is different because what you've known in the past isn't working. And in New York, we come into that trap, right? There's a lot of lakes that we can fish and run stuff that we fished in the past, and it always produces. But without practice, we run into this trap of running what we know instead of trying new. Mm-hmm. So I think in situations where what's working in the past, I need to expand and try stuff that is new. So that's what I've been working on this year.
Do you think your gut sometimes tells you things that you just want to go do, or things that you should go do? If that makes any sense, does that make sense?
Both.
So how do you differentiate that? Is that like just literally just a mental check of like, what is this actually telling me to do?
Yeah,
I mean, what's the easy answer there? Just to sack up and go do it, or what?
I
think if you got time, I feel like I think either way you tried it, right?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I think what I need to do is start turning right when my gut tells me to turn right, and if that doesn't work, then go back to the stuff that I know. So like if I don't have any practice, it's not a bad idea, because you can roll into an area and be like, I'm going to go flip grass over here because it's next to this point. There's deep water close by, but you pull up and the grass looks great. You might catch one, but what's 5 minutes on a body of water running from the left side of the lake to the south side just to check a weed bed that might or might not be there to run somewhere else that might be close. So,
right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great point. So, independent angler, he put up a comment saying, fighter won AOI by not fishing what the bite should have been and fished his fish. So, like, he did what, and I remember talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I just fished how I wanted to. It might not have made sense, and it worked. And I think that's another point to, and maybe that's a point to, trusting your gut of what you want to do, right? Not just what you should do. I think that's a great point to that argument, is like, there's a lot of things that can work in a lot of places. I mean, there's regions that are known for certain things, right? But that doesn't mean that something, that's popular in the north that's not popular in the south won't work in the south. I think that's a really good point to remember, that a bass is a bass.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
A bass. Yes.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point. Good job there, independent angler. That kind of opened my mind to that. Because that's something that I don't, you could either blame it on me just trying to learn different techniques, but like, I look around different areas, and, when I was originally looking into Texas, that when I was going to fish down there, it's like, what's popular for that time of year? What makes sense that time of year? And trying to do things that I wasn't used to doing. And it didn't, like, that first half day of practice, I was doing stuff that I wasn't used to doing. Didn't make sense. And I went back to like doing what I was like comfortable doing, and I ended up catching fish. And I guess it kind of comes back to that argument. But I also think there's not a problem with trying to branch out and try to learn different stuff. Just maybe not do it in a tournament setting. Because you see guys that in tournaments, big tournaments, that try to do what's popular then, right? That's trending or that makes sense for this lake because of that's how it was won last year, and then it burns them.
And I would say there's a caveat to that I've always been the same way, Bailey, on your thought process of go back to what you know and trust your gut in that situation. But there are some situations that blow me away and just shows how good certain anglers are. And I would say in more situations, you need to go back to in a tournament situation. I'm not saying in practice, try things, but in a tournament situation, you need to be doing what you are comfortable doing. But there are certain situations where you hear pros talk about like, oh, I have never ever picked up I don't know, I'm trying to think of a specific situation, but guys are like, yeah, I've never picked up a rig before or something, and I started doing it. That one's a little different because you can kind of just start catching them with it. But like, there's certain situations where pros are like, I've never even done that before, but I heard that's the thing to do. This is the first week I've ever thrown XYZ bait, and it's just
John
like
Cox on Sam Rayburn with a frit pad.
with a crank bait. Exactly. There's a perfect example, and that's just like, you got to be kidding me. But that stuff can happen, and so I think it's always like everything that we talk about as far as strategy goes. Like, there's always a caveat of it going the other way. So I think though, you need to put enough of these percentages that give you the better odds to like they'll stack with each other, right? Because there's always a caveat of it going the other way, just kind of as a baseline thing.
Yeah, and I think honestly, talking about that, that's one of my weaknesses. I think as an angler is sometimes I try, and Andrew's seen this firsthand, is sometimes I try way too hard to, whether it's a community hole or just a really popular thing everyone's throwing, I try so hard to find something completely off the wall or unique, or as what people call, finding the juice. Like I almost spend too much time trying to do that I run out of time, like trying to catch up, if that makes sense. Where sometimes it's worked out perfect, and then there's times
where
you
win.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it's hard to say. Community holes are a community hole for a reason, right? You get bit. So, like as we're talking tournament strategy here, I personally love starting in a community hole because I'm going to get a bite or two right away, and then I can go to my quote unquote juice or something maybe slightly off the wall I have, and try to get a couple more stuff. I hate the juice, kills me every time. That's so funny. But
Joe's coming in with the awesome comments tonight.
Heaters.
Love it. But I mean, I have no issue fishing community holes if I know that the fish are there, because they're a community hole for a reason. But I will also have off the wall stuff if I have time to practice and find it. So, then I'll start running that as the community hole dies out, because I have no issue going in and fishing next to somebody as long as we're friendly. So,
yeah. And Andrew, when we started the year, like, that was one of my goals, right? I remember saying it was, I need to get more comfortable fishing around people when I hate fishing around people. I can't stand it. And
I hate it too.
I still failed it. I failed miserably this year. I still, like, every tournament fish solo, I didn't fish a single community hole. But like, it's something I got to work on. I really do. It's like, and that's the one thing I try to remind myself that Andrew was telling me. And the point was like, community holes are community. They're called that for a reason. It's because there is a giant ass community of fish.
Yeah.
You just got to get a little bit creative.
You just have to be smart in choosing your community hole, because some community holes are nurseries of like sub-legal fish, and they could really burn you fast. So. Smile away.
Smile away, boys. Smile and wave. All right, Deacon. Let's hear your weakness, dude.
Yeah, man. Well, I kind of already mentioned it earlier. One that I've struggled with, over the last 3 or 4 years is inconsistency, and I feel like it's gotten better, but just getting, whether it be too dialed into something, and this is again multi-day tournaments. Consistency in a single day tournament is a completely different ballgame. You're looking to win the dang thing. It's not, in my opinion, smaller tournaments where or even team tournaments, your goal should be to win, because there's not an angler. Well, sometimes there's not an angler of the year race, and the win is worth a lot more than it is just to cash a check. So as far as multi-day events go, I struggle with consistency on having stringing together in a specifically a 2 or a 3 day tournament, multiple really good days. I'll normally have, I can count on so many times where I've had the leading bag on day one, or a lot of times it happens to me on day 2 where I go out and jack them and have the biggest bag of that day. And I think part of it is because that day 1, maybe I was a little bit uptight, right? Like tournament starting, and I didn't kind of relax and have fun and go fishing. And then on day 2, I'm like, well, crap, I'm out of it. I might as well go have a blast. And then I end up cracking them, and sometimes that happens and it's frustrating. So probably consistency for me would be my biggest weakness, of just trying to string together multiple day events in some situations. Sometimes I can do all right, but there's just some situations where it's like, man, I seem to really have a peak and a valley in one tournament.
Yeah, I agree. That is a tough spot to be in. I hate going in with like reckless abandon, because I get spun out fast. So I've had to basically teach myself to go in expecting only 6 bites. Like, that is my goal, but you have to start with 1. And I think Bailey can attest to this. I suck in the morning, because if I don't get bit right away, I start spinning out, and I'm like, I just need 1 bite. Just bite it. Just bite it. Like my head will start spinning until I get that first bite, and I'm like, okay, just 4 more, but first 1 more. Like, I slow down. But if I don't get bit right away, the first 2 hours with me until I get bit it's a train wreck. Everything's flying everywhere. Like, I don't know.
Every time Andrew and I fished a tournament, or even sometimes fun fishing, you don't do it all the time, but you catch the first one, you're like, "Whew, okay, they're here. Okay, good. All right, sounds good. Okay, we keep fishing now." And it's like he talks to himself to confirm that he's good, and then so we have a Stoner's Bay tournament video coming up, and you guys will kind of see a little snippet of it. But for me, I'm just kind of loose and tournament morning, and just want to start off slow because you want to start off on a good note. And Andrew's just banging a drop shot off of Doc's loud as hell. He's like, "Son of a bitch!" He's getting so mad. You just bite it, and he's yelling at him, trying to force feed him the first 30 minutes. And I was like, dude. We're 20. He's talking about, maybe we should go try this. I'm like, dude, got here.
That's really funny though. It's right after I get off that rant, if you go back and watch the footage, I'm probably
cracked him.
Man, do you want to get a cheeseburger? My mind instantly goes to food after I catch the first one. Just instant settled, starving.
Settle down.
At the end of this year, we will have an amazing montage of just the most random ass crap that Andrew and I do on the water.
Slamming my rod on the water after my 10th backlash in a row, trying to flip a dock in boat rollers.
Just one-liners of just the most random stuff ever.
Oh God.
But yeah, no, some people are different though. Some people are super jacked up and are blasting music, super psyched, adrenaline junkies. And then you got some people that are a happy medium. Then you got some people who are kind of I'll take my time getting there. We'll just make this look fast. And everyone's different. It's just part of your adjustment period.
I think you gotta.
Here we go. Joe says, I'm like Andrew, so much that I walk off the end of the dock.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've fallen while fighting fish, fall down into the middle of my boat because I'm all jacked up. Oh yeah, it's wild. It's not good.
The best is watching Andrew try to skip docks while there's a 3-foot boat wake, and he won't understand why he can't flip, and he gets really angry for 5 minutes. And then the boat wake's gone. He goes, "Oh, that's better." It just click. He's back.
Dude, I love team tournaments for that reason. You just get to make fun of each other throughout the day.
Sodas Bay day one meltdown at like 1:30 is like iconic of all meltdowns. Like it was like a nuke hit the water with me. Just hair coming out, steam boiling, slamming my rod on the water, like just angry. Like
I hope the GoPro could pick it up because I literally turned to Andrew. I'm like, go sit in the back of the boat, take 5 minutes, and then come back up when you're ready. Like I talked to him like a dad. I was like, that's just the beauty of team tournaments, right? Though, I mean, you got one guy that can keep a cool head for the most part, and then one guy that has steam come out of his ears, and then the next tournament they flip flop. Yeah. Completely. I mean, that was me at Chautauqua. Like I didn't vibe well with Chautauqua at all.
No, I literally looked at Bailey and I was like, okay, we're going to go to a community hole now. Like, we got to go catch fish. And then we ended up catching the last, 5 hours of the Derby. So, whatever.
So, another thing kind of on the subject of team tournaments, but also just anglers in general that I think we should bring up is how cool you can be with catching whether you're someone who kind of is like Andy in the sense of needing a bite, are you someone that needs to have a limit in the boat to feel comfortable and then really start progressing on a bigger bag? Or are people, there's certain people who it's like, dude, I have to have a limit. I have to have my 10 pounds and then I can go start swinging. And then there's people who are like, I can have 4 fish at 2:30 and they're going to be the 4 right ones. And I know I need one more to go. And I think that in a lot of situations, that's how people can win. But there's people who are like, look, I'm going to burn through small fish. Someone, Porosnik, man. Porosnik has always talked about, like, I'm going to throw a wacky rig around, just like John Cox, and I'm going to, I like catching them. So I want to be around where I can just get a lot of bites. And then there's people who are like, I'm hunting 5 bigs, and that's how I fish. And it's just, it's kind of a cool, unique thing. So how are you guys in that situation?
You can go first, Bailey, because I already know his answer.
Yeah, for me, I could be 2 hours out as long as I got the right fish. At least for me, I haven't fished a lot of multi-day, big events to really say what I think I am. But at least the majority of tournaments that I fished have been 1 day local events. Granted, obviously there's points involved, but I don't really think about it too much. When I'm there that day, the goal is just to win. I'm not competing for a top 10 or whatever at a local tournament. If I'm not getting paid, then I don't really care, if that makes any sense. It might sound bad, but I'm there to win, and I'm there to obviously I'm there to get first place, basically, because you get the trophy, you get first place, you get a nice check, in most trails. So it's if it's 11:30 and I have 3, but they're 3 good ones, I'm not stressed. Mm-hmm. Because you still have a few hours left in the day. Now, with 30 minutes left, yeah, I'm probably stressing pretty bad. I'm going to run around and try to find one, but I don't know. For me, it's if I know that I'll get, say, 6 or 7 really quality bites throughout the day, but maybe it means I have 4 hours within that day straight where I'm not going to get bit, but I'm going to do the same thing, I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really stress me out much.
Yeah.
It's all about literally confidence. It's for me, one of the things I've really learned this year is as long as I can get 1 day of practice, I can feel really good about what I'm doing, whether it's a good bite or not, but I'll have the confidence to know to make decisions, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And that's a great point. I'm kind of the same way for the most part, unless it's on a certain body of water where I'm if I catch a limit, I might catch a big one with that limit really quick, and then I have to worry about catching one more kicker. So our Sodas Bay tournament, our first spot I started on, I go, we might catch 5 for 10 pounds or we might get 5 for 14. It depends on what's there. So there's certain bodies of water that I want to catch a limit on because there's that chance of getting a good bite with that limit fish, with your limited fish. And then there's other bodies of water where I'm Lake Erie, for example, I'll throw back fish that people would put in their well because I'm that's not going to do me anything if I put a 2-pounder and he's going to die. So like Lake Erie, I'm going to go out looking for my 5 biggest bites because I'm so comfortable and I know the body of water really well. Or if I go to a smaller fish lake, I'm like, I just need to catch as many as I can and hope to get a limit. I hope to get a bigger bite in that limit. So for me, it's completely situational. Completely situational.
Well, that's a great point. And that's basically what Joe's bringing up in the comments here. I think it depends on the body of water for most guys. Time of year and species also, or two, matters, you know. So basically, like, go ahead, Bailey. You're raising your hand.
I think
Yes,
a
Bailey.
way.
Yes, Bailey.
Yeah.
Next question.
Pick me. I think a great example for this, and feel free to disagree, and I'm just going to go back to, like I mentioned, we're going to bring it up multiple times throughout the show. It goes back to this open on the St. Lawrence River where you have a mixture of guys. You have guys that are just fishing the 3 northerns. You have guys that are fishing all 9. And then you have the local guys who might just be jackpotting it.
Sure.
And I've heard it through Doc Talk and all that jazz. There were some local guys that were hopping in, and they're like, oh, well, I think I could cash a check, just fishing the river. They're like, I know I could go win it on the lake, but like I think I could, I feel safe going out in the river. I completely disagree with that whole train of thought.
Same.
It's like, if you're going to fish the one event to try to jackpot it, you need to go where you have the best opportunity to win it.
Yeah.
Whereas like a guy like Matt Pangrac, who's fishing all 9 of them to try to make the Elite Series, I completely agree with his game plan of staying in the river and catching 20 to 21 pounds a day, because it's going to help him with points in the overall, and he's not going to beat the living hell out of his boat trying to go for a win. Whereas guys,
situational.
Where it's where guys in the north who might be fishing all 3 of them, it's a middle road, right? Where they might not be swinging for the win. Where like Adam, great example, Alex, right? Alex Redwine made the Elite Series, where he went out, he knew that he had to put that big bag together. He could do it in the lake, did it in the lake, but was conservative enough where he left himself like an hour and a half to get back, so that he knew he wouldn't be up the boat. And he knew he wasn't going to win, but he knew it'd be enough weight to that points wise. It wasn't as conservative as like a guy going for all 9. Like if that train of thought makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And to Alex's point, like, I mean, talking to him each night too, he's like, dude, like I weighted my fish as early as they'd let me. And because he knew, look, if I catch 20 to 22 a day, and again, he was doing it on the lake, he wasn't in the river, but if he gave himself comfortable time, he wanted to make sure his fish were going to be okay, driving back and all that, he'd qualify for the Elite Series. And I think it was a great part on him. He finished 13th in that event. I really wish, low key a little bit, that he would have tried for a couple more bites and pushed into that top 10. I don't think he had any chance to necessarily win the event, but he definitely had the fish to catch to hit a top 10 finish. But completely respect his decision, and he had to do that, right? Like, I mean, I completely agree with it.
I mean, that goes back to a comment up here that I saw from Joe. I don't know if I can actually find it. I think I probably scrolled a little bit. But he goes basically the most important thing, like when you're talking about, fishing for win or whatever, basically you are fishing for your objective of that tournament, fish leaving, whatever. Like he fished not to win, he fished for his goal that day, which was to make the Elite Series. If your goal is to win, you go out there to win. But like, I don't know. It just goes back to like in the whole mindset of how you fish, right? Like if you're going to jackpot an event, like I'm not going to go there and get a limit. I'm not going to waste an hour trying to find 5 squeakers that aren't going to help me whatsoever. I'm going to waste all of my time trying to find the biggest 5 for
Go
that.
for broke. You're already in it. You might as well, if it's one tournament out of 3 and it's the only one you fish, make a show like Dean Meckes, right? He knew what he had to do. Oh, yeah. He cracked him. And he's like, I'm going to go and try to win this event on fish that he knew he could do it with. Also shout out to my buddy Billy, who I think came in 18th. Yeah, because he ran and he swung for it. Now he's got confidence, which is kind of scary. He's a really good smallmouth stick that a lot of people don't know about. But I know he went. He's like, my fish should be there, but I'm going for it because that's my only way to win this event. Mm-hmm. So, like, if it was me personally driving all that way, 5 hours from my house or whatever it is, 4 hours from my house, if I was practicing and I found one area with big fish and no limit fillers and I might only catch 3 or I might catch 7, I'm fishing for those big fish because that's my best chance. So once you get in the boat, try to expand more. Always in a 1 out of 3 situation, like you're showing up to jackpot it to win 40th and your money back, not worth it. Just don't even fish the tournament, personally speaking.
Yeah.
Like,
and, some people talking about the whole to trying to find a limit. Maybe it's guys that down the road want to go and fish professionally, right? And they have to get used to going for a limit and then adjusting to try to find bigger bites. And there's guys that use local trail tournaments like one dayers to practice that. They use tournaments as practice. That I can understand. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of goes to my weakness, man. Like my mindset from going from like local tournaments to bigger multi-day events is I think that's why I've had some inconsistency in some of those is like, dude, I'm looking for 5 bites. Like I'm swinging and when I swing, like it's going to be a win or it's going to be, I might not have a limit. Right. And I've definitely had to adjust in incorporating a lot more kind of finesse stuff of really just get to fill that limit. And that's what's been great. Honestly, back to team fishing, man, you learn so much. Like my team partner, I can count on him. We're going to get a limit because he's going to finesse behind me and we're going to fill a limit. I'm going to probably get a bigger bite and I'm probably going to get our reaction bites in the morning. But that has taught me then when I'm in individual tournaments to slow down and be like, look, sometimes I need a limit. Like I need to get 5. I can swing. I got 3 good ones, but do I have an area where I can go to go get 2 pounders and then still be sitting in a good position going into day 2 tomorrow or something like that. So it's all perspective on the tournament itself.
Well, it's all situational based too, right? If you're fishing a trail, you might be like, okay, I just want to get my limit and get my points because I had a horrible practice, right? If I can walk out here, it's a 1-day event in a local trail. If I come out, there's 30 boats and I've come out with a top 10, awesome. But then you also have the 1-day tournaments like the local hammers at jackpot stuff that don't swing for a win. They're foolish because they're just wasting their money. It's like if you show up to an open that you don't belong to the trail, but it's open to anybody, you're going there for 5 bites, and then guys come in with 6 pounds for 5 fish, and like, well, I couldn't get my big bites going, so I caught a limit to be respectable, but they lost by 21 pounds.
Yeah, don't even weigh in.
Yeah, it's like just go home, put it on the trailer, and leave. Why did you show up if you're gonna weigh in peanuts? So it's all situational based. 100%. And there's guys that have that edge, and then there's guys that just go out to fish and just have money to spend, which is an entirely different topic we could talk about in these opens. You have 10% of the guys that can fish, right? Probably 10 to 20% of them that can fish. You have 20% of them that probably can't fish at all. And then you have guys that just have money that probably could fish. They just don't care because they're away from their wives at home.
I think
what
it's
are
a
you
little
saying,
bit of
Andrew?
a breakdown than that. But yeah,
Amanda.
See, I'm in a different situation here. I just don't have the money to go fish. I think I can survive. And I hate being away from home that long. So
the truth comes out. Oh man.
Oh, just kidding.
Is there anything strategy wise that we are overlooking? Whether Adam, Andrew, that question's pointed at you, but also for folks tuning in. And that's also directed at folks who are listening at a later date. Shoot us a DM or whatever. We can dive deeper into this whole concept.
My biggest takeaway, and I don't think a lot of anglers do this, especially like local level anglers. The first thing I always do is look at weather. Weather is the most important factor. And I'll look at the weather and then look at a map. And then the next day I'm like, okay, how much has the weather changed? So like 3 days out, I check weather and topographic maps of lakes to try to pinpoint an area that I'm going to start, albeit if it's practice or a tournament. If I can't practice, I always have a plan and I'll have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I think a lot of guys get stuck in this routine. I know this lake. They don't look at the weather. They just show up and go fishing, and they struggle. So I think you should fish the moment, like TJ says, but also have a plan to fish the moment. So the wind is doing this over this said point. Now I know how to position my boat because I looked at a map beforehand instead of just showing up and Like, oh, the wind's doing this. I'm going to throw this bait because the wind is ripping today. Always have a plan.
What do you guys think is the ideal amount of practice time?
Whew, that is a big factor, dude.
Depends on where you're
derby?
fishing.
What derby and what are you fishing?
Let's just go standard. You got $100,000 in the line.
Okay, but like we're talking multi-day event, 100 boats.
Okay,
200 boats.
let's go elite format, 4 days, $100,000 in the line. How much practice time do you think you need?
We talking about practice. Okay, multi-day event, and it's an open. You're seeing more and more guys, right? Like everyone that I talked to at the St. Lawrence was there. All of 8 days. I mean, a ridiculous amount of time of practice, right? Not a 3-day traditional practice or a 4-day traditional practice. So I don't know. I think it depends a little bit on your familiarity with the lake. And
you're speaking like me. We've been talking too much.
That's what it must be. Anyways, I think a lot of it depends on how familiar you are with the lake, and if you can feel that you can break down a lake in a certain amount of time, and your strategy going in. I think that there's so much that goes into play on if it's a place you've never been before, and you need to go there and just run the boat around and understand how it looks, and do a hot lap of the place and be like, okay, well, if I get bites on boulders, there's a lot more boulders down here or something like that, or just to kind of put something together on the entire lake. So ideal practice on a big multi-day event, I think you want a lot of time. But with that, you need to be very careful on not getting married to what the fish are doing. Because if you are 5 days out from a derby, those fish are it's very unlikely that they're going to be there. Understand that you are really going to have to make adjustments if you're going to practice for that long. But there are plenty of proven guys that have made it to the Elite Series and those levels right now that took the time and practiced a ridiculous amount of time before the Opens to kind of eliminate a lot of scenarios on the water. And it's crazy to me because then you go to make it to the Elite Series, or even if we're talking Tack Warehouse Pro Circuit, Major League Fishing, then you're looking at 2 to 3 days of practice, 2.5 days of practice. And it's like, holy crap, completely kind of relearn that. So I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. But if you can afford the time off, I think that has been a proven strategy as of here recently. 3 years ago, I would have said, why would you take more than 3 days? Because if you don't find them in those 3 days, you're not going to find them. But guys have proven me wrong on that for sure. So I think it depends a little bit on who you are, and it changes as you go higher up at the ranks.
So I'll take it over here, Bailey. I apologize. In a perfect world, you have limitless amount of money and you're fishing the Opens. I would go to each stop before 30 days in advance and not even fish. Graph around, look for a couple days, and learn the lay of the land, right? So boat traffic lanes, learn how maybe the wind blows across the lake because, any body of water you go, the wind might blow from the southwest, but it'll come from the northeast, even though it's blowing southwest because it swirls. So learning how the outside factors affect a body of water. Are the fish relating to boulders and what's the water temp? And then when I go back to practice, 3 to 5 days, and really narrow down what you have because you've already put the pre-practice in, found a bunch of stuff, and find stuff in all different scenarios. Are they deep, shallow, mid-range, docks, trees? Kind of find an area of the lake that's like that in your pre-practice. So when you go back, you're already prepared. You're like, okay, I have all this stuff. I know where it is. And you can just start running patterns and really break down the water quicker. If you're familiar with the lake, personally, I don't think you need more than 3 days.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that. So take that strategy and put yourself in a kayak. How long do you need?
All the time, because your little hamster wheel can only go so fast.
That's pretty good. I like that.
I like that strategy, though, Andrew. No, I like that strategy because that's something I try to utilize, and that's kind of my game plan. When it comes to, I've only fished on a handful of national, say, kayak events, right? And I like a 4 to 5 day format where you spend 2 to 3 days literally just covering water, graphing, looking at stuff, not really fishing too much. And then you take your last 2 days and you take what you've learned, what you saw, percentage wise, see what the weather's doing, and then try to go figure out what those fish are doing those 2 days.
Get a couple bites here and there.
Yeah. Now so say you're forced to I'll say Elite Series 2.5 days. I mean, how are you consuming your time? Say on a big body of water.
Oh, that.
Also, Andrew, are you hearing the thunderstorms outside?
Oh, dude, it's ripping. Like I
Yeah.
keep seeing like the flash of lightning out of like the inside of my glasses. I'm like, what the hell? And I look over and I hear thunder and the lightning. I'm like, jeez.
Yeah, so folks, you might lose us tonight, but
no,
I'll still be here.
We're getting into like
stuff.
So Bailey, you are not familiar with weather patterns in Western New York because you're from Central New York, and your lady can probably speak a little bit more on this. We have things that happen called training. Like we get training thunderstorms, and they're lake effect thunderstorms that come off the lake this time of year, and they just fire and rain and constantly keep going. So it's basically like the prelude to lake effect snow season. So that's what's happening right now. If you look at the radar, it's literally a lake effect thunderstorm.
Oh,
and it'll phase out in like 2 hours.
Andy, you would get along.
This is it running. Look at it. It's coming right off of Lake Ontario. It's just training.
Oh, wow. You would get along so well with my team partner, Turner. He literally is obsessed with weather, dude. It's his like side hobby. That's hilarious.
Gosh.
Absolutely love it. But
Deacon, is there any other frame of tournament strategy that we should cover tonight? You think that we're missing?
Dude, not that I can think of. I think again the biggest thing with all this is you got to try different things because what one person says may not work at all for you. And the same thing goes in practice. It's something I've been experimenting too, kind of going off what we just talked about. It's like I used to be a daylight to dark practice angler, and it was also, and in part you kind of have to do this in a situation where if you only get a certain amount of days off of your job to go practice, it's like, all right, I got a day to break this thing down. I'm gonna be out there from sunlight to dark, and it's going to be brutal, or multiple days of that. But I think that you need to do what works for you. And if you're a Hank Cherry and you get off the water once you start losing focus, and it may be 3 p.m, but if you start getting focus, he's going to leave. And so I think that there's so many different things that you need to try as an angler and really work through what works for you. And that's what's so cool about it is you can keep learning.
So in a perfect world, out of let's say we have 5 days of practice, right? Day 1, 2, and 3, maybe even 4 if I haven't found anything yet, I will graph if I can from sunlight to sunset. Might not even make a cast, just graph. Because you're learning the lake. But on that the 4th to 5th day, that's when I start casting if I find stuff that I think is good. Like the first couple of days of practice, I don't even want to make a cast because I don't care. I'm just there to break down the body of water and figure it out. Then take it a step further, you can make a cast. But if you have 3 days, I'm just looking for areas and then running with it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
We have to simplify things. As anglers, we overrun and kind of do circles, and we just don't do enough. Why does Hackney hate me?
So Hackney in an interview said that you need no more than 2 days practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hackney, and if you think about it,
that's different styles.
Yeah,
different styles.
That goes to what I'm saying. Yeah, dude, I just heard a huge thunder strike. So I don't know if just that little conversation we had about how you guys are getting drilled on the thunderstorm, but I'm in Colorado, however many 1,000 miles away, and right after Drew talked about that, dude, I just shook the house.
Did you say you heard thunder, Adam?
Thunderstruck.
Or you saw it? Oh, never mind.
No, I didn't. You
I
messed
heard you
that
wrong.
up. I didn't say it.
I messed that
didn't
one
say
up.
I
Never
heard
mind.
lightning. You had me confused. I was like,
Ignore me. Yeah. All right. Anything else that we need to cover? Going to you guys, folks tuning in. If not, I think we should talk about what's coming up this coming weekend or next couple weeks for us here.
Sure. I mean,
Deacon, you got a tournament coming up?
I do, man. Headed to Lake McConaughey, Nebraska. It's a cool fishery, largemouth and smallmouth. Normally the smallmouth dominate, but there are some certain situations where you can get on some big largemouth and win. So excited for that. It's a 2-dayer, practice a day or two at the end of this week. And it's to seal the deal again, like we talked about on that Eufaula tournament. So, or to make it to that Eufaula Bassmaster Team Series.
go get it done.
Thanks, man.
Get her down. Good luck, buddy. Andrew?
Douglas Derby this weekend on Erie. Lower River next weekend that Bailey won't be joining me on, so I'll be fishing solo. And then just a bunch of guide trips. Like I have every weekend booked until our classic tournament on October 16th. So maybe I'll hop in a Wednesday Derby here in October somewhere. We'll see. It depends on if I'm guiding or not.
I'd like to do that. That'd be fun. Where's my invite, dude?
I said maybe. Maybe. You gotta make money first. If I have enough money, let's go.
He's got to get his guide going, but that's great to hear, dude. Glad you're here.
So let's see here. I guide tomorrow, then I work Wednesday, a driving job, and then I practice Thursday, Friday, fish Saturday tournament, guide Sunday, guide Wednesday, guide next Friday, tournament Saturday, guide Sunday, Monday, Wednesday.
It's called living the dream.
Pretty busy schedule coming up.
Getting after it.
Heck yeah, dude.
But it's probably 100 times better than being stuck behind a bank desk.
Oh, dude. All day long, I was just riding my boat and like, this life is amazing. We're cracking giants. Like, I'm in the sun.
Heck yeah, dude. That'll be fun.
Love it.
Dude, I fly to Wisconsin tomorrow. I fly there for literally one night, and then I fly back. It was a last-minute work deal. I had Wednesday off to go practice. We have our NYKBF, the local kayak deal. We have our state championship this week. I fly back. Unfortunately, had to cancel one day of practice. Not a huge deal, but I fly back on Wednesday, get to the airport at midnight. So technically Thursday, I'll have my kayak and all that jazz on the car and packed up, ready to go. Literally drive straight from the airport down to Chautauqua, where we'll be having that tournament. We'll be filming that one. Probably just going to go sleep in the parking lot and then wait until like 5:30 and get to my practice, and probably do dark to dark Thursday and Friday. So state championship this weekend, day 1 and 2. Hopefully we can cap that off with a W at another state championship to the resume would be cool. But other than that, I don't have much coming up beyond might be doing a little bit of traveling to Santee Cooper for a weekend, maybe. So there's some talks in there. Obviously, of try to document some of the social stuff or some of my travel stuff on the social. If you guys aren't following Adam, Andrew, or I on our personal social, that's down in the description. You guys can go do that there. Other than that, guys, I mean, fall fishing's coming up. I am super excited for some big old Great Lakes smallmouth. If Andrew's ever done, or if Andrew ever has a day where he's not guiding, I would love to get out on the boat. Or working. I'll just steal your boat. It'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I think that about wraps it up. Anything else the folks need to know there, boys?
Kyle commented, he said, what trail is that for the team series stuff? So what is really cool, guys, if you guys haven't seen the Bassmaster team series qualifier, basically it's a team tournament across the country. You can sign up with any bass club as long as you have a minimum of 25 boats, I believe. and every 25 boats, you get an additional qualification. So like Minnesota, for instance, they'll send 2 boats because we've got 50 teams in that tournament. Someone like the Southern clubs will have 125 boats. They can qualify a bunch of people, but like it qualifies for the Bassmaster Team Series Championship, and one person from there gets to go to the Classic. It's first day, I think, a multi-day event, two-day event on Eufaula, and then it goes to a bracket style, or not a bracket style, but you each get your own boat, and then you fish for the Classic spot. But it's been going on with Bassmaster for a couple of years now, and you can wherever your local bass club is, as long as it's BASS, you can sign up to be a part of it, and you have enough boats. Okay, everyone's got tackle. It's showing tackle. I want to show tackle.
I'm just throwing some accent net out there. Andrew's just throwing random crap.
DOG.
Oh, always.
Overrated.
Oh.
Man, how many fish have I caught on that stupid thing this year? Probably all of our tournament fish, but like 2.
Whoa. I brought more fish than that to the scale,
I'm saying
buddy.
out of my fish. Out of my fish.
Oh, I thought you were saying you caught all of our damn fish. I was like, wow. Throw me under the bus.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, folks. Oh, yep. There we go. It's rolling in. People are seeing.
All right, random question for you guys. My brother just sent this to me, and it's an Eli Manning question. Would you rather have $10,000 or Peyton's helmet full of quarters?
Peyton's helmet full of quarters.
Why?
Playing with money.
We make like $1 million.
So Peyton,
about that, but
I don't know. I think you're gonna have more. With
You'd make damn close.
I think it's worth more than 10. Peyton's helmet? That's got to be worth more than 10 grand.
If it's game worn, dude, you can make a butt ton of money on that.
I'm gonna look on eBay
Hey,
right
Manning.
now.
See, I was just thinking you get the quarters. I didn't think of the helmet.
Oh no!
You gotta think outside the box, boss.
Oh, come on now. Yeah.
See, I was just thinking
we're talking just quarters. No.
Yeah, that's where I was at, like quarters or 10K, not the helmet. Now,
That's
if it's
a
a
stupid
signed
question,
Peyton
then.
Manning's helmet, and then think about because the quarters would just fall out too because of the face mask. You didn't wear a visor.
See, you thought outside the box, but in a dumb way.
All right,
Yeah.
get paddling, bud. Get paddling. Next time I see you on the water, you're getting the trim up.
It's pedaling. Thank you. Yeah.
Pedaling.
Plus the helmet value.
Next time I see you on the water and we're not in the same boat, you're getting the trim up rooster tail treatment.
I'm gonna run you over my Hobie, bro.
Do
Yeah.
it.
Dude, is that what the joke's about? That Peyton Manning's head is huge.
Wow, missed that.
Now it made sense.
Yeah.
See, Andrew's like, oh, the quarters will fall through the helmet. And I was like, what? Doesn't even make any sense. This Peyton Manning's helmet will go well over $10,000.
I don't know.
Damn for a fact. Especially if it's game worn, dude.
Let's eBay it.
People will pay out the butt. How are you guys? Oh, here we go. How are you guys' fantasy teams doing as of week 1?
Good.
I didn't do fantasy this year, fantasy football.
All right.
Honestly, I'm enjoying
See you later, Deacon. Goodbye.
So Peyton
He's been
Manning
taken
game
off.
worn cleats go
enjoying
for
my time.
$6,000.
Game worn cleats. That's different. That's feet.
Yeah,
I don't
helmet's
want to
gonna
deal
be
with
way
feet.
more. Helmet's gonna be way more. 15.
Did you know that football players for the University of Notre Dame, if they want to keep their helmets, it's $1,000?
Nuts.
Fun fact.
So I'm 1-0 in this one. Aaron Rodgers crapped the bed. I'm about to trade him.
Yeah, it's probably because he looks. It's that damn haircut. Have you seen it? He's got like a man bun.
Yeah. And the only reason why I lost
Tip.
in my other league is because Aaron Rodgers got 1.32 points.
Yikes. Josh Allen dropped the ball for me. Technically, he dropped the ball twice.
Here's to be real. Josh Allen, statistically, every year they've played the Steelers, has played his worst game. I'm not worried about it.
Why does he suck against Big Ben?
It's not Big Ben. It's the Steelers' defense. Every quarterback sucks against the Steelers' defense.
Excuses. Not the Browns. Browns crushed the Steelers last year.
Yeah, in the playoffs because Big Ben threw like 3 pick sixes in the first 2 minutes of the game.
Cleveland almost beat KC. They should have
almost beat
beaten
them in the
KC.
playoffs too.
Yeah. OBJ is back.
He didn't play yesterday.
Oh, did he not? Oh, I thought he was back.
Never
mind, he's not back.
The moment he comes back, that team goes.
You think so?
He's all about him. The team was good before he got there. Then he got there, and they went.
How's that go again? Okay. Well, that's it all tonight. That's it for tonight, folks. See you later. All right. Well, we are going to wrap it up here, and hopefully we'll have some more shows coming out for you guys. Obviously, we 3 of us have very busy weeks this week. We're going to try to get episodes out, whether fishing YouTube videos or specific podcast episodes. Hopefully we'll get them out this week. If not, pretty much starting October, we are full steam ahead, and we're going to be cranking out shows, getting on some really amazing guests because it's the off season. People got a lot of time to waste. They're going to have, a lot of the pros will be in the deer stand. Maybe we'll get some deer stand interviews with some guys. But other, what?
They'll have to be whispering while in the deer stand.
Nah, most of those Southern boys are probably in their heated deer blinds that are, I don't know. But either way,
you ain't wrong.
Yeah. Either way, October, we are excited to really put a lot of time towards this show because that is really when the fishing season for us in the north starts dying down. So we'll be putting more time to it. We're excited to obviously take this thing to new heights. We are in talks with a lot of people for 2022. We are brainstorming literally every day trying to make this thing better and literally just need the time. Time is the only factor that we don't have on our side right now to really implement this stuff. But when we do, we are pretty pumped up to be able to do so. But I think without further ado, if you guys don't have anything left for the folks, we're going to sign off here, and we will see you guys on the next one.